too backward to turn my head around and look when he asked earlier, how many of y'all have not ever been in one of my services anywhere? Ain't never been. Well, lucky for you. If you had been, well, the rest of them were either brave or felt sorry for me. They came back. But anyway, we're going to have a good time today. I never cared nothing about entertaining nobody, so all I really want to do is get in the presence of God. I'm not anything extraordinary, I don't believe, but I believe that He is. Yes. And maybe it's a good thing that I realize that I'm not much, but now, don't take me wrong, I'm not bashing myself, nothing like that. Some people, when I say that, they say, oh, now don't be, no, I ain't that way. I ain't an Eeyore. We have enough Eeyore Christians around, that sit around and woe is me kind of jump. I ain't one of them. But I want to feel the presence of God this morning. Most of all, even if I don't feel His presence, I want to bless Him. Yes. And because it's not about what I feel or if He gives me chill bumps or whatever. He's worthy of my worship. If He don't even walk in the building, He's worthy, but He will. Because he always responds to our worship. Every time you worship, He responds. And I'll be talking more about that sort of thing in a little bit. My heart is worship, so I'm going to talk about worship, and I just can't get away from it. So if you don't like worship, try to stay awake. But if you don't like worship, you're going to have a boring life in the Lord, I can tell you that. You're going to miss out on a lot of extraordinary, wonderful things of God if you don't like to worship. I want to plug in and get started.
I forgot to dismiss the team.
Yeah, get out of here, teens, unless you want to feel God's presence and stay.
What you going to do with that?
Yeah, leave children, unless you want to get touched by God.
Children should stay in here.
Okay. Oh, good grief. Anyhow, you're going to find out I got a sense of humor. I don't know, I can't guarantee you'll like it. But I prayed, I've been nearly wide awake since 4 a.m. this morning, and I've prayed just that God would really do something wonderful here today. And I believe He will. At least, I've prayed one thing in particular, and that's, Lord, let it be anointed or at least very interesting. One of the two, and I'm praying for anointed. I'm going to hit play, and we're just going to do something real quick. I've got to get warmed up because, honest to goodness, I've done enough playing this morning to do nothing, so my fingers are still kind of in the sleep mode. I got to wake them up. So just just enjoy this if you can. If you can't, don't throw anything, okay? Let's see here. things, I'll just talk. How about that? I'm pretty good at telling stories. Now, if I get, sometimes I just make it up as I go along. And so if I interfere and think I'm doing that, well, then just take it that I'm lying, whatever. I tell you what, worship is a wonderful thing, and music and worship just seems to take everything to a new level. I was recently in Wales worshiping, and I had just a wonderful time in Wales. That's the land of the singing revivals. And there's something about sound that was extraordinary in Wales. It's extraordinary everywhere you go. But I was in a little chapel inside of a castle, basically. It was built in, I don't know, 1100s or something crazy like that, you know, because there's more castles in Wales than any other country. And they're just everywhere. I mean, you just driving around, there's another castle. And you just kind of get used to castles, because they're just castles where you walk down the street and all of a sudden you round a corner and there's a castle, or at least what's left of it. They must have been terribly afraid of something. So what I thought, you know, they must have been really afraid of something because they had so many castles. But I was in that castle in the chapel, that thing, just a little, it was one of those round rooms, you know, that go up like a tower, you know, that you see on the edges of castles and stuff. This wasn't the edge, but it was further in. But as everybody began to sing, I just closed my eyes and bumped into God, just that easy.
Amen.
But there was a powerful thing in the sound. And, you know, how many of you in here consider yourself musical? Okay, well, we've got a few of you. Well, let me tell you something. The rest of you may not be musically talented. Now, there's a difference between musically talented and being musical. I've only ran into one person that said that they didn't like any music. But then he said, but I really liked yours. And so I thought, well, you just don't know what you're talking about. He said he don't like music, any music, but he liked mine. So, you know, and he's weird, but, you know, but the thing is you're musical. And I love telling about this part of things because it's just, you know, some Christians just go around, especially on Facebook, you'll find all kinds of stuff. People, they'll write anything. They come up with all kinds of stuff just to make God look cooler, you know. And how can you make God look cooler? You can't. Usually you just end up, you think you are, then somebody researches what you said. They find out you was full of you know what. And then that just gives them another reason why not to trust Christians, you know, and to believe anything a Christian would say, because we're trying to make God seem cooler than what he is. And he don't need help with that. I mean, he just don't need any help. He's amazing. And but there's a neat thing, and you can do all the research you want to on this. I mean, I can just tell you this openly: wear yourself out, and you'll find I'm telling you the truth. They have discovered years, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago, I guess, that we're, you know, our DNA, which every one of us has, is different. Everybody has, you know, it's like your fingerprint of God on your life. No one has your DNA. You can be spotted, you know, I mean, they'll pinpoint you down to, out of all the billions of people on earth, they can tell you're you by your DNA. And that's because God made you that way. Well, one of the cool things about DNA is that they discovered that your DNA is basically a musical encoding. It's if they take what looks like this, oh, you've seen all that junk, you know, and I can't tell you what's what on that, you know. But I can tell you this: they can string that thing out in a straight line, and it's a song, and it's amazing. And you put that in a computer, and you can have this done now. Technology's so wonderful now, and you can send your DNA off, and they'll send you your song. It sounds like a ringtone. I mean, it's like a piano sound, which is a shame. I thought it should be a banjo or something. But you know, it's a, you know, you'll hear your song. Sounds like a little ringtone or something, you know, going on. And so God has made us musical from the very core of our being, He's made us musical. And you know, because your DNA determines everything about your body. The shape of your nose, everything that God made you to be is encoded in your DNA. And the cooler thing about that is that equals a song. You're a song that God wrote. And that's why when you hear music, you know, your foot starts responding and tapping the music, or you start getting that little groovy thing going, or you start humming along, or, you know, different things happen because you are made musical. You know, the funny thing is you can put fill this room with deaf people and start playing music and they'll all start dancing, except for the ones that are all, you know, ashamed to dance. And half of them dance so bad you wish they were ashamed to dance. But I have weird thoughts. Most of this stuff comes to me while I'm on a commode. But anyway, I told you I make stuff up. No, anyhow, I feel free to talk this way because I know your pastor. I know him well. Anyway.
But we've never been on the commode yet.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Thank God there's wonderful things in life. But anyway, you're musical. You're absolutely musical. And I have seen God do stuff with music, and especially in the worship realm, you know, when you're worshiping with it. See, there was a time when King Saul was going around, you know, and then Samuel came to him and said, you know, the prophet Samuel, if you don't know the Bible, he was a prophet. And he came to Saul and he said, about this time tomorrow, you're going to be walking by the hill of God, and there's going to be some musicians come off the hill of God, and they're going to be playing the names of some instruments off, and they're going to be prophesying. And when you come into their presence, you're going to be changed into a different man. You're going to be transformed. Now that right there tells me, and I know where that hill of God is, by the way, been on it. And it's a great place. Actually, Samuel's bones are on that hill. He's entombed in this place called Nayat Ramah. And that was where he had a school of worship, or school of worship, or a school of the prophets, they called it. And in those days, they called it several things. One of the things was the hill of God. Well, they came down off the hill. Here comes Saul. Got into their presence, and they's picking. They's playing some music, and they's playing prophetically. And when Saul got in their presence, he was transformed into a different man. Now that is what I pray every time I go to play somewhere. Lord, let me change the atmosphere in such a way, let it be so anointed that people are transformed. And God will do that. Now, if you're not even a musician, you're still musical. So even if you sing like the sounds of the screams of hell, there's power in your voice. Now that's true. I remember when I was lost as a goose, man, I was a wicked somebody, you know, I really was. But I was dating a girl who drugged me into church, and she didn't want to be there either. It was mainly to impress her family, because she was, you know, Sister Beelzebub. I mean, if you ever met her. And she drugged me into this church, and I was sitting there just, you know, like, man, I got to get out of this place. Then there was this old lady gets up, and she walks up to the front, and she says, well, Sister so-and-so asked me to sing. I'm not really prepared for this. And she had a book about this big full of songs that she carried around like she's not prepared for this. I mean, daggone. I mean, that's right. She was just waiting on somebody to ask her. Probably asked somebody to ask her to sing. And she gets up there to sing, you know, all pitiful like, seemed like to me, because this is coming from, you know, eyes that were seeing not through God's vision. I was, you know, definitely in the world. And so I was seeing everything in this funny way. I would make fun of her the best way I could. And she got up there to sing. She started singing, and it was, I mean, the paneling was ripping off the walls. But, I mean, the paint was just peeling. It was horrible. And, you know, I came from a professional music background. I'm sitting there trying to figure out, am I going to laugh at this? Or am I going to cry? And, you know, but before she started, she was like this type. It was like, well, y'all just pray for me. I can make it through this. You know, that, I don't know if you ever heard that. that's always a bad sign. Because you end up sitting there and you're wishing you could make it through that. Now, God help me. I don't know if you exist, but if you do, either kill her or help me to make it through it. You know, and that kind of thing goes on. But she sang and it was horrible. Just absolutely horrible. And, but in the middle of this, she closed her eyes all of a sudden. And I'm still hearing this awful thing happen. But all of a sudden I start to get chill bumps. And I'm looking around like going, what in the world? You know, who turned the air conditioning on? You know, that awful voice is still going on. But see, what I didn't know, she closed her eyes and started singing to the Lord. Now, it's still the most pathetic voice you ever heard. But when you are singing or playing or whatever you're doing up to the Lord, He ain't listening to your voice. He knows what talent He gave you or didn't give you. But see, he can listen to me play all day long, and it may not do a thing for Him. I mean, He's not impressed by what I can do with this. I mean, He gave it to me, and that's wonderful, but He ain't impressed by that. Now, what He's listening to is my heart. Come on. And that's what He's listening to. So you're musical. And I'm not telling everybody to go to Sagebrush or Longhorn, whatever, steakhouse and start singing in the middle of a crowd just to see what you can do. You might get run off. But there's times when your voice is just as powerful, or if you play one of these, I mean, it's just as powerful as mine if your heart's aiming it up. You may be able to do nothing but squeak, but if you're aiming it up, there's something powerful can happen, because as soon as you touch His heart with it, if you can touch His heart, He'll touch their hearts. And that's the way it goes. You send it up, He'll send it out. And no matter what you do, you can't send it out. I could play all day long and you not get healed, because I have no power over that. But if I'm playing up and just let that go upward to Him, He'll send an anointing out and He'll do whatever He pleases, because it's His. Because I have no power. I have some talent, but He gave it to me. It's even His talent. I have passion, but He gave that to me. It's all His. And He can do what He wants. Now, I mean, I can tell you what you can do if you're musically talented or not. You can send up a sound, because see, every one of us have a song. There's a song that's in us, and you may think, well, I don't know a song of my own. Well, no, it's an encoded song. You have a sound in you that's meant to be released in this earth. And a lot of people don't understand. You start talking this, and they're just kind of like, what's this baloney or whatever? I don't get it. It's over my head. Just forget about it. But you shouldn't do that, because you got a sound. See, each one of us has a song. He encoded you. You have a sound. You have a song. And so when you begin to release these sounds at the right time, the right place, you can touch heaven, and then He'll touch earth. You know, and there's something powerful about that. I've been playing in places. I went down to, I don't know if anybody knows who Karen Wheaton is. She's a singer down in Alabama, does a bunch of stuff on TV and sings and stuff. Great lady. And you can read in you might hear all kinds of stuff about her being, a diva and all this. It's not true. Anytime you're dealing with people talking about Christian folks, they're going to talk bad about them. You never see somebody if you ever see a Christian guy and everybody in the world's talking good about him, watch out. It's kind of, you better steer clear of that. Something's up. Or liable to be, or soon will be. But anyway, Karen, I went down to her place, and this is, I can give you example after example. I just walk in there going to play. She called me up, hey, come play for us, because I knew her. I used to travel with Tommy Tenney, and I knew her from that. So I go to her youth thing there in Alabama called the Ramp, and every one of you ought to go. Take your teenagers and stuff to the Ramp. It's awesome. But so I'm in there and I'm just playing. I'm just playing up to the Lord and loving on Him, and everything just went nuts in there. And I thought, boy, these kids like to worship. They're just going nuts. And then it went from nuts to everybody on their face. And I thought, man, these kids, rarely do I see adults on their face laying on the ground worshiping, but these kids, they's on their face. They's lining the altar and everywhere. They's just like somebody went there with a bunch of shotguns and let loose, they's all down. And then every time I'd get ready to quit playing, Karen was on the altar, and she looked like a raccoon. All that makeup was just everywhere. And she would she would do this, keep playing, keep playing. And so I kept playing and playing and playing, and I was actually started getting worried because I started running out of songs after a while. And I was thinking, now I'm gonna have to start repeating stuff, and I'm gonna, it's gonna look like, like some kind of idiot. I'm just repeating songs. It's gonna lose its power real quick. But what I didn't know is when I did get done, she come up to talk, and she pointed to a teenager, and there's everywhere, but she pointed to one. She said, "You come up here right now." And he came up there, and she said, "Tell everybody what the Lord has done for you." And she held the microphone to his mouth. And he held his hand out, and it was shaking, just like this. And he had something in his hand. And I thought, are those eyeballs? I said, what are them? It's the funny looking things in his ears, or in his hand. And he said, I used to wear these, and they were hearing aids. And he'd been this close to deaf all his life, could barely hear anything, had these big old hearing aids, and could just barely hear something if it was really loud. So he would wear them just in case he could possibly hear something. And during worship, I was playing Awesome God, which is one of my favorite songs. I was playing Awesome God because he is. And he was out there, and his ears, all of a sudden, he was just like, I can't hear nothing. And it was loud sound, but he's wondering, why can't I hear nothing now? And he took one out, thinking something was wrong with it. Bam! He could hear everything. His ears instantly opened up. And so he pulled the other one out, and he went nuts. And he just went ape. That's when, toward the beginning, when everything went nuts. He was running all over the place, and everybody was, I didn't know. I was just worshiping him. All I knew was, hey, there's a ruckus going on out there. I didn't know if it was a fight or what. It's kind of funny when you're just worshiping him and you hear something going out there and you're trying not to focus on any of that. You're trying to focus on him. Everybody's screaming and yelling and stuff, and then next thing you know, when you do open your eyes, everybody's on the ground. Thinking, do I need to run? Somebody's done come in here and start, everybody's hiding. But, that stuff happens. All you got to do is be there. There's times you got to be somewhere, and then sometimes you just got to release your sound. And I know a lot of you are thinking, whatever, because I'm not talented. It don't matter how talented you are. I taught one boy how to play guitar. Well, no, I didn't teach him. I tried to teach one boy how to play a guitar one time. And he was the worst guitar player on earth. So if you play guitar and you feel like you're bad, there's somebody worse. This guy is worse than, it's horrible. This guy couldn't play nothing, and I taught him for months and months and months and months. And I wasn't taking his money. I was doing it for free because I felt sorry for him. And the worse he was, the more I felt sorry for him. I just kept trying. And one day, he was always so happy to come in there. One day, he walks in for his lesson, and he's totally different and just depressed. He said, I don't think I'm ever going to learn how to play one of these things. And that was totally different than any time before. Before he was always excited about it. And I thought, well, this can't be, I thought, well, you ain't going to never learn to play one unless there's a miracle. But I didn't tell him that, that made things worse. So I told him, I said, well, what you need to do, you get that thing and you start getting alone with God and just say, I want to play you something. And you just play whatever you feel like playing, however bad it is or whatever, but you just play for the Lord, and you just tell the Lord, I want to bless you. I ain't got much, but I want to do what I can. And he thought, well, I had never thought of that before. And that week, he left feeling better, and that week he went on a road trip with his wife and another lady, and the other lady was driving, his wife was in the passenger seat, and he was in the back seat. And he had his guitar over beside him, and he thought, well, I think I want to try what Mark said. So he gets the guitar out, and he starts thumping around on it, and I guarantee you it was horrible. Because the guy just couldn't do anything on the guitar. And, because he wasn't musically talented. But this is the deal. He's musical. So he starts thumping around on that, and he tells the Lord, Lord, I'm just going to play something for you. It may be horrible, but I love you, and I want to just do what I can. And so he's back there, and the women up there talking like, how women are. Except for you ladies. But they was just going at it hard as they could go. And he's back here thumping around on this guitar, I just think I just lost the attention of all the women in this room. But anyway, he went on a while, and he noticed things were getting quiet up front. And so keeps playing, and he just closes his eyes and talking to the Lord and just playing whatever he could, and hoping that he could touch the Lord with what little he had, you know. And then a little while went on, and he hears something strange and opens his eyes, and the women up there are real quiet, and he could hear them sniffing and stuff, you know, and passing around Kleenexes and stuff, you know, and he's like, and he just closes his eyes, he keeps playing, you know, and then next thing you know, he feels a bump, you know, kind of something's off, you know, the car, he feels it move, and he opens his eyes, and they're pulling off the road. And them women are just bawling their eyeballs out. And he realizes the presence of God had come into the car, and it invaded their space. And because he was just sitting back there, just thumping on a guitar, couldn't do nothing. But see, there's power when you can take what little you got.
Come on.
And you can aim it up to him. He'll respond to almost nothing.
Come on.
Because this boy had nothing. All he had was a heart. And a guitar and a dream, I guess, you know. But God heard his heart. And he came into the car, and they couldn't even drive no more. They had to sit there and wait till the women got back together, you know, got themselves together so they could drive again. But God visited. And so, long bunch of talking, I know. But how about we just quit talking about it and worship a while? Because whatever you got, God will respond to it. He's listening to this. So what you ought to do is lift up this, or even if you don't feel like singing, pour this out to him. Start giving him your heart, and he will respond.
Amen.
And so normally I have video stuff going on. I apologize. I don't have it this morning with words on the screen and all that. But it don't matter. If you know the words, sing. If you don't, don't. Just close your eyes and worship. I don't care if you run. I don't care if you lay down on the floor. Just worship. I mean, and I don't mean to sit there like, you know, okay, I'm worshiping you, I'll give my tithe and stuff. I don't mean that. God responds to that different. He does respond to that worship, but it's a total different thing. So, why don't you worship with me a while?
Amen.
And I'll quit boring you with my words. And I always learned, I learned a long time ago, and it looks like I would put it to use a little bit better, but I can usually play things better than I can say them. So, let's go there. Do I need to turn this off so this microphone don't bother you while this monitor's going into it? Okay, gotcha. All right, let's worship a while.
Amen.